For my wedding, my sister gave me her confession that she had been stealing money from me for years, thinking that since I was happy, I wouldn't get angry, but that was her first mistake out of many. I have a 32-year-old sister, and if I were to meet a hitman right now, she would already be dead. But I know something better, a lawyer, and I think she would prefer if I met the hitman instead. I'm getting ahead of myself, but as the title of this post makes clear, my sister has done something extremely wrong. So wrong that I need a lawyer, no matter how terrifying that might be for her. But let's get to the facts. I, 32 years old, recently married my husband, who is 33. We had been dating for 5 years and literally got married just 4 days ago. I was excited to enjoy time with my new husband, taking advantage of all the newlywed hormones, but something happened at my wedding that completely ruined everything. I have a sister, Eva, 25, a true hellish creature. I'll also start by saying that I absolutely loved my sister, and we never had any bad blood between us until she did this. At my wedding, she decided to confess something, supposedly because she was in a good mood, and it wouldn't affect me too much, but it ended in the worst possible way. And no, it wasn't a wedding meets funeral situation like you might be imagining. I won't go into the emotional parts of the wedding because they aren't relevant here. I was enjoying the party immensely until she came to me to reveal something. She approached and asked if she could tell me something, asking me to promise not to get angry. I said yes, expecting it to be something trivial, like testing the cake frosting with her finger. Then she told me that she had basically been lying while asking me for money, which she ended up using for other things. Over the years, I had given my sister a significant amount of money because she had been dealing with several medical issues. She lived in another city for university, so she would simply ask for money, and I sent it to her via Venmo. Almost all of this money was supposedly for her various treatments and tests. I had the impression that she had serious medical problems and needed tests to see if anything was terminal or fatal. They never found anything too severe, but issues kept arising. I had been planning to take my sister to a specialist and invest in her health to make sure her problems were resolved permanently. I had even discussed this with my husband, and we decided to take her to good doctors after we recovered a bit from the wedding. Well, all of that planning was for nothing because it turns out she never had any medical issues. All the money I sent was used to fund her fun vacations and shopping sprees. She never needed that money for medical necessities, because she never had any. Eva made it seem like all of these were small, harmless lies she invented so I wouldn't refuse her requests for money. I had always thought her friends were too generous because she told me they took her on trips, paid her share, and bought her gifts. Most of her friends are fairly wealthy, so it made sense to me. I never imagined my sister would lie to me like that. I was deeply hurt and absolutely devastated by this confession. However, Eva wasn't taking it seriously. She laughed, treating it like a silly joke. I asked if she was serious or just joking about not being sick, but she wasn't joking. She was telling me this at that exact moment because she knew I was in a good mood and wouldn't take it too seriously. How do you tell someone they've made a huge mistake? Oh yes, with fire in your eyes. I began yelling right there that she would return every single penny with interest, that she would make a country with double-digit inflation feel ashamed. And I yelled loudly, not caring if others heard, and the wedding, or whatever, was ruined. I was so furious that at that moment, I could have switched careers to hitman right then and there. Fork in the eye of my uncle's plate 2 meters away, all cleaned up with minimal blood, and then on to dancing. My husband came over to see what was happening because, between my yelling and glancing at my uncle's table, my sister's face was so pale he thought she was dying right there. So I had to tell him that her famous illness was just a lie, that she had been stealing money from me, and that her illness would become real if she didn't leave my sight immediately. My husband escorted her out of the wedding. I know he said something to her because they stayed at the door talking for a moment, but we preferred not to know so I wouldn't get more upset. I spent the rest of the wedding upset. No matter how hard I tried to smile and talk to people, it was clear that something was bothering me. In the end, we had to explain what happened, well, my husband did, to clarify why I had yelled at my sister, and why she had to leave forcibly. There was no point in hiding it. People had seen our argument. It's better than letting gossip run all day. For obvious reasons and to protect my uncle, we omitted the fork part. Few people knew about her supposed illness. My sister didn't want to be treated differently and only told me. We don't have parents, so I was her older sister and improvised mother. The next day, she texted saying she thought I would understand, that it was just a little money, and that I'd find it funny if I were in the right mood, but she must have misjudged, since I wasn't enjoying or happy about the wedding. Why did I take it so badly? There was no apology. I was angry because I was upset with her. We had a little confrontation on the phone. I called her and yelled a bit more, clearly telling her it wasn't funny, and that she was stupid. Eva and some of my relatives say I'm being dramatic, that yelling at my wedding ruined it, but I don't know what else I could have done. I've been keeping track of my account, as I have all the transfers in the app. Roughly, not differentiating transfers for other reasons, we're talking $23,000. I estimate around $16,000 of that is Eva's little joke. It might not be much to some, but to me, it's a huge amount. You could buy a car or make a down payment on something small with that. Maybe you'd need more savings, but it's not pocket change. Eva thinks I should just get over it because she came clean with her innocent joke and freed me from being her free ATM. How kind of her. She stole from me for years and thinks that by calling it a joke and freeing me, it's all resolved. I had been naive enough to believe her until now, but no more, and she's pretty naive if she thinks I'll forget this. If I sound angry, it's because I am deeply hurt by my sister's actions, especially since I sacrificed so much for her. I should mention that my sister and I didn't have a fantastic life. We lived comfortably, but reality hit us hard when our parents died. They had gambling addictions we didn't know about and were terrible with money, living beyond their means. They died while driving home drunk from a casino. My mother died instantly, my father 2 days later in the hospital. I was 21, my sister a teenager. I had to fight tooth and nail to keep her with me. We lost our home and had nowhere to stay. Relatives refused to help, saying they were already too broke to take on 2 more people. To be fair, our extended family was never financially stable. My sister and I spent days sleeping on couches while I desperately searched for cheap apartments so social services wouldn't take her away. She struggled to adapt because suddenly we went from comfort to homelessness. I had to take every job I could to ensure we had food and a roof over our heads. Still, finding safe housing was difficult. By the time Eva went to college, things had improved slightly because I had been promoted at work. Eva got a scholarship and worked for extra income, so she wasn't as dependent on me. During this time, I set a goal. I was determined to save every penny to have a home or apartment in my name. It wasn't easy. I had credit card debts from emergencies. I earned above minimum wage but financially wasn't doing well. Saving for a down payment was extremely hard. I lived with 4 roommates and shopped at discount stores. I even used donated clothes. I lived like a poor person to secure a permanent roof over my head. It was during this time that Eva began asking me for money here and there. Initially, she timidly asked for money for tours, concert tickets, and such. When I told her to manage her finances better and save for such expenses, she got angry. Later, she stopped asking for these things entirely because she knew I wouldn't give. Much later, she started telling me she had some medical problem requiring urgent tests. Twice, she scared me into thinking she was about to be diagnosed with a terminal illness. Now I know it was all lies. This delayed me from getting my own place. I couldn't even marry my husband because he knew I needed to meet my goal first. I couldn't afford a house, but after years, I finally got an apartment. Only I know what it took to get here. My sister mocked everything. She thinks I shouldn't be angry because I achieved my goal, which is another reason she confessed now. It's not like I needed the money, my husband earns well for both of us. But it's not just about money. What she did is terrible, and she doesn't even realize it. My sister lied because she knew I wouldn't give money for vacations or luxury items. She thinks it's not a big deal because I achieved my dream and found a well-off man, as she calls him. So it's not like I'll miss the money. I don't agree with her logic at all. I may not need it now, but I spent years counting pennies because her foolish spending delayed me by hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. I could have bought my apartment at least 2 years earlier if she hadn't scammed me. So yes, I face setbacks because of her. My savings didn't replenish themselves. Literally, I had to count every penny. I wish I were exaggerating, but at one point, I lived off coupons. Eva never had to see that because she had cash to spend thanks to my generosity. I can't believe she was okay with me living like a poor person while she went on spending sprees. I can't forgive that. At this point, I've decided to cut off Eva and any flying monkeys around her. Forgiving because she's family is not in my DNA. I could never forgive my parents for throwing everything away because of gambling, and my sister won't be the exception. My husband, friends, and some family are on my side. My husband is especially furious with Eva and said he prefers to stay away from her for a while. He knows what I went through, as he's been in my life since college. He hates how Eva took advantage of me and let me go without things just to see her happy and healthy. I have full support from him, but my sister insists on her version of reality. Let me clarify, I am not a vindictive person. If she had offered to repay the money, or what I deemed fair for her joke, maybe we could have made peace eventually, maybe in 30 to 40 years. Just kidding, but I wouldn't let her off that easily. She refuses to see it as a problem and says money isn't important, so I see no resolution. That's why I'm talking to a lawyer. Unfortunately, I'm almost on my honeymoon, so it's not the time to start a lawsuit, but the problem won't disappear just because I'm on vacation. It will be waiting when I get back. And yes, I've decided to take this to court. Some things are not a joke. Edit, sorry, I can't keep up with the comments. I'm packing for my honeymoon, so I don't have time to respond to everyone. I can't ignore my husband and be on my phone 24/7. I see some of you had harsh things to say about how I was aggressively saving for an apartment. One even called me a stingy witch who'd rather starve than use my savings. Sure, I could have used my savings, but that would defeat the purpose of why I saved. You might think I'm obsessed with owning an apartment, but if you'd experience what I did, you wouldn't call me cheap. Part of why I'm so angry at my sister is that I did this for her future. I wanted a place for her so she would never worry about housing. I've always wanted property due to my trauma from losing our parents' home. Although we will move to a house with my husband, eventually buying it together, that apartment could have been used by Eva or rented out. Perhaps it's irrational to some, but not to me. Eva knew all this, my trauma, my plans, and still thought it was a great idea to delay me and scam money. I am deeply hurt by her. She showed me she sees me as a fool. Update 1, many are still waiting for answers, but I promise I've read all messages. Some were curious about how Eva faked medical reports. Short answer, she didn't have to. I never asked for reports because I'm not a doctor and I trusted her. She based most of her diagnosis on childhood illnesses, so it was easy to believe. Also, she lived in another city, so I couldn't help her quickly. I always made sure she had friends helping with medical stuff, so I felt relieved she wasn't alone. I couldn't afford to miss work or buy plane tickets. My priority was giving her money for her medical needs. I forgot to mention she asked for money even when she worked. I begged her to save for emergencies. She promised, then cried later for money. I saw her financial issues, following in our parents' footsteps. She never listened. She spent her money recklessly, leaving nothing for emergencies. Maybe she had savings, but she still used me as free money. I read your comments and got ideas for dealing with relatives' critiques. Hypocritical that they call me a bad sister when they did nothing while I worked hard for Eva. If I get a message accusing me of being a bad sister, I'll reply, send $X to my sister, then call me names. Her friends and any family on her side will be blocked. I am removing toxic people. Thanks for your judgment, it helped me see I wasn't wrong. Edit, yes, I should have asked for proof from my sister. But people who haven't lived this don't understand. She was my only direct family who shared so much with me. Trust is natural. Nothing she did is irreversible, except the broken relationship. Money is recoverable, I've spoken to my lawyer. People show their true colors eventually. I prefer this to something worse in the future. It hurts to lose my sister, but the money isn't the worst. Being smarter wouldn't have prevented her from doing this or worse later. Stop saying I deserved this. It's easy to comment from afar with a cup of coffee. Regarding the lawsuit, I have her messages asking for money for medical stuff. She has to prove she actually had those appointments. If she can't, she owes her sister, me. Update 2, not a happy update. I thought my sister would respect my boundaries and give me space, but she didn't. She knew I'd sue and got angry. She sent many hurtful messages, claiming I owe my life to her. She twisted my love for her into a weapon. Said I was jealous of her achieving dreams I didn't want. I never desired luxury like her. It hurt to know she thought so poorly of me. I didn't respond, everything goes to my lawyer. My husband is supporting me, but angry at Eva. His mother and sister brought food to show support. Can't believe my in-laws are more caring than my own family, gambling parents and a scammer sister. Edit, my lawyer will draft my will, my apartment won't go to Eva if I die. My husband will get it if no children, otherwise, it will be divided among them. Update 3, Eva's boyfriend Drew, 25, called. He wasn't invited to the wedding. I thought he'd know everything, but he didn't. Eva hid the details. He wanted my side. I told him everything, he was reasonable, supports me, and might reconsider his relationship with Eva. Troll comments won't affect me. Update 4, Drew got suspicious, confronted Eva, and discovered he was also being scammed. She lied about finances and said she'd be a stay-at-home wife with inherited wealth.